And we're going to be doing a break it down series today. We're going to be with you for about the next half hour or so. And part of the things we're going to be talking about is the volatile market, what's going on with it. And then also we're going to be breaking it down as far as choppy markets, since that's what we've been seeing. Like, how do you know when something's going to finally break out either to the upside or to the downside? Because, well, yeah, the market's been topping. So a lot of stocks have just been kind of going sideways and then finally moving in a direction. And then the other thing we're going to be talking about is, short trades. Since this is kind of the environment we're in, I'll show you what some of the tips and tricks that I use for the short side. So we'll kind of dive in here, and you can spend the next few minutes with me. If you guys have any questions, simpler trading, go to their website. You can come over here at also to profitpilot.com. That's where you can find out more about me if you've never seen me before. But that's kind of the usual spiel over there. All right, and just want to make sure everything is looking good on my end as far as the data. So looks like we're up and running, doing well. Feel free to add any questions in here as I go along. I will be looking at the chat every so often. So, this is a two-way road. Feel free to communicate if you want to. And then beyond that, let's kind of dive into the markets. We've been seeing these things just really, really puke. I mean, today was a very interesting day where we had the markets open with a gap down and then push for a few hours. And boy, did we see the thing turn around. And what's interesting, Sam and I were kind of talking because, it's just like we like to talk about what's going on with the market. And we were noticing that the volume today was absolutely bonkers. Look at the volume today. It was 315% above average volume on the Nasdaq. I mean, we're insane numbers, and you just see those bars going on there. I mean, look at you can see here. Look at the volume bar on the daily, right there. I mean, insane, absolutely insane. So I think that there are some really, really big things going on with the market, and you need to make sure that you're on the right side of it. And then just be careful out there. I'm sure we have more. I'm sure the market's going to go further down over the course of time. But right now, we're probably going to get a bounce. And then also do remember that we have the FOMC on Wednesday. So we're going to get some Fed talk, and we'll see how that goes. Buckle up and hang on tight. All right. So one of the things I wanted to address, if we look at Amazon, and I thought this one was a good one to look at, because if you're dealing with a choppy market and you're thinking, okay, well, it's Amazon, it's probably never going to go anywhere. It should be good. It's solid. And if you're just kind of hanging out in the sideways consolidation, and then all of a sudden it just starts falling apart on you, were there any signs? Were there any clues? Could you have done something about that? Either if you needed to get out, or if you could actually take it. If you wanted to actually go short on something like this, there was a trade to be had. So what are some of the things that you can do to actually identify when price is going to basically get out of this trend? I could show you the IWM too, because it's been trending sideways, I think, for about 10 months or so. So one of the things I like to do is I have multiple time frames that you can see here, and that helps me see just a fuller picture. Because if I only look at one time frame, I'm really not kind of getting what's going on with the activity down below. And for example, if you look at the daily chart, you can see that the daily 50 SMA, which is the magenta color line, is just going sideways. That's giving you no clue, because price really isn't holding the moving average. It's not really bouncing off of it. It's not doing anything. And so where you need to go to another time frame to where you can find out, okay, what is trending? What time frame is actually following a moving average, whether it's to the upside or to the downside? Well, in this case, for Amazon, you look here at the hourly chart, and what do you start noticing? Number one, the magenta color line, which is the 50 SMA, and the orange color line, which is the 200 SMA, they crossed. One is below the other. The fast moving average is below the slow moving average, which means the trend is now down. I mean, that's just how moving averages work, and that's that's the principle behind them. And so that's kind of the first thing to notice. And then after that, you start watching like, oh, I'm starting to see that the hourly 50 SMA is basically pointed down. It keeps going lower. And then the other thing you can notice is that the hourly 200 SMA is starting to roll over and go down as well. And even though price keeps popping up and popping up, popping up, popping up, you need to look at what is the overall trend. And that's why moving averages really help you, because they give you the trend. Not always the easiest thing, but that is generally what you're looking at. And the other thing is you need some tools that can help you figure out what the what the trend is doing, what the stock is doing, where energy is. Kind of you need some tools. For me, it's the Moxie indicator. That's the indicator that I designed years ago, and it's pretty much my exclusive indicator that I use. And what we can see here is that it fired short all the way back there. That was telling me that energy right here, you can see that went negative, and it could never ever recover. So even though you had a bounce and a bounce and a bounce, look what the Moxie indicator was doing. It was below zero the entire way. That's negative. That means energy is negative. And the Moxie indicator is the backbone of the trend of what's going on here, telling me, I don't care if price bounces up. I don't care if this thing, looks like it has a really strong day. What's the indicator doing? The indicator, even on like this really strong move, the Moxie indicator was below zero the entire time. And that's telling you it's not going to work. Energy is negative. I don't care that price is bouncing. Energy is negative. Momentum is negative. And what it do? It bounced up into a downtrending hourly 50. So these are some of the things to kind of look at and say, ooh, this might actually start catching some momentum in the down direction. And either you can work with that or you step aside. But those are some things to watch for. And then you can take the same principle about the moving averages and you can apply it to the daily chart too, with say, faster moving averages like the 8 and 21 EMA instead of the daily 50. The daily 50 is basically useless in a case like this. You need to use different moving averages that help tell you what's going on. And at least in the case of Amazon here, what you can see is that the 8, which is the blue line, was below the 21, which is the reddish line. And you can see the fast moving average was below the slow moving average the entire time. So what direction is the trend? Well, according to the moving averages, it's down because the fast moving average is below the slow moving average. And you can see that every time it bounced up, it kept hitting the slow moving average right there until it just kept careening on over. And next thing you know, you're down 20%. So those are key things to note and look at. And if we look at the IWM, because we got a bit of a head fake with this one a while ago, right? So part of what I was even doing, because I really like to trade in the names that are in the IWM, small caps, all that, and I was looking for the market to going up. The S&P and the Dow and NASDAQ, they're all doing fine, and I needed the IWM to join in, otherwise we were going to have some troubles. And we can see that over here, price was over the weekly 50 SMA. So according to that, and the 8 was over the 21, everything was bullish. Everything was still bullish. Even though it's been trending sideways for a long time, I was still bullish. So I was looking eventually for a breakout to the upside. And we did get it. And you can see here, price bounced right off of the daily 200, and then it bounced again off of the daily 50. I mean, everything was working out and firing on all cylinders. And then what I can show you is, here is the key for me to go long. This is what I call a trampoline move. So a trampoline move is when price is below the 50 SMA, but the Moxie indicator is still above zero. This is like, it's like jumping on a trampoline. It's like trying to push a beach ball underneath water and it just wants to shoot back up. The Moxie indicator is telling you energy and momentum is still positive. That's why it's over zero. And yet price dipped. Well, that's buy the dip. That's a trampoline move and it's going to shoot right back up. And that's exactly what it did. So these are the things, these are the clues. Like, look at this trampoline move, come into testing moving averages, bouncing off moving averages, all this stuff. And you can see here, even the daily Moxie indicator was trending up right there. All this stuff was telling me, hey, watch for a breakout to the upside and see if it's going to be tradable and look for those exact clues. Okay, when is this thing going to finally go? And that worked out beautifully. Now, I was then looking for a pullback in order to confirm this move to the upside. And I was looking for that pullback into the daily 50 right here. And what the crazy thing is? That the entry never came. The pullback never stopped. And if we look here, this area over here on the hourly time frame, notice how price just careened down and it stayed below the hourly 50 the entire time. So even though I was bullish and I was looking for a way to get into this, I already had our first signal right there and right there. I was looking for something to come back down. I wanted it to test. I wanted to get into this thing. I thought we were going to be going up. And, fortunately, there was never a trigger. So I never lost any money trying to go long the IWM because, I mean, look at this. It never went long. There was never a trigger. The Moxie indicator, look at that thing. just nosedive right through the zero line, went negative, all that stuff. And then at that point, now, once that happened, once this thing just careened on down, now what? Instead of being over the moving average, we're now under the moving average. Instead of being over the moving average on the weekly, we're under the moving average on the weekly. It's changed. So these are the things that you kind of pay attention to figure out, am I bullish? Am I bearish? And is it working? And then I needed to have it confirm. And if it didn't confirm, oh, now look, it actually confirmed the other direction. The exact thing of what I was looking for right here for price to hold the daily 50. It didn't hold, but instead it held the daily 50 to the downside. Totally extremely important stuff to be paying attention to. And these are the things that I use with the Moxie indicator and moving averages to help figure out when a breakout's going to happen and when these things are going to finally get going, whether it's up or down. Now, let me look at, I think Adobe was a pretty good one too, to look at this. Yeah, so this right in through here. Let's talk about this before, any of the craziness with the market and everything rolling over. Let's go back in through here. And what we can see, let me get my cursor so that we can, you guys can visually line up where I'm at with this, is, so Adobe, kind of the same concept as IWM, totally different sectors, of course, but just take from the chart perspective, kind of similar, right? We had price chopping on the weekly, and what it do? It finally went right into the weekly 50 and bounced. So that's good. We're looking at that. We're trying to figure out, okay, there's some support. And generally, I would be expecting price to go up because it's flagging into the sideways uptrending moving average. And so that is my bias of what direction I want to go. And then I basically look for confirmation. And for me, the kind of confirmation I like are the pullbacks into support. So just like we were looking for that pullback into support on the IWM, well, we got that on Adobe. So look at this. We can see that we got that move up right there, and then we got a pullback right there into the weekly 50. And then on the daily chart, we got that move up, and what we get? Pullback into the daily 50. Now you remember, as I was saying on IWM, I was looking for that pullback into the daily 50 to verify support that the IWM was going to go up. And instead, it just went straight down. Well, look at Adobe and look what it did. See how it pulled back into the daily 50? Notice that the Moxie indicator was above zero, vastly different than what the IWM was, right? So this is telling me, Moxie indicator is telling me, like, hey, I'm still positive. I'm long momentum, upward momentum. I still want to go long. So any move down price-wise into support should be bought. It should be good. It should be a trampoline move. And that's exactly what happened here. Vastly different than the IWM. And you can see it continued just to hold in through here. That was your perfect entry right in through there. And then it started to take off. I think I was trading in through here. That's why I got those lines. And then you know what? You want to see confirmation on top of confirmation on top of confirmation. How about the hourly chart? Look right here. You can see price pulled back into or just below the hourly 50. What was the Moxie indicator doing? It was still positive. We had two trampoline moves. We had a daily trampoline move and an hourly trampoline move. Not to mention, this was pulling back into the weekly 50. This was fantastic. So, a lot of times when there's a really good setup, it becomes obvious. It's really quite clear. And so if you're in through something like this and you're in Adobe and you see it flag and you're like trying to figure out, okay, is it going to go? Is it going to go? Is it going to go? And you can't, maybe you fits and starts and you keep losing your money because you kind of get into the wrong place. I'm telling you, between the way I trade with the Moxie indicator and looking at these things, you can see when price is going to get going. The setups are fairly clear and fairly easy to be identified once you know what you're looking for. And look, there was a nice move after that. And then, the market changed. So, but that entry was just absolutely beautiful and perfect. So then let me show you, let's see, I think it was Disney. It's another one that I was looking at. Because here's Disney, and it did not work out to the upside, even though it was flagging into bullish. Let's see, kind of right in through there. Get that just moved over. There we go. Okay, so Disney, like we're looking at Adobe, looking at price flagging sideways into the weekly 50. So much like Adobe, you think, oh, okay, this thing is going to go up, like looking good. Well, first of all, if you look here on the weekly chart, don't you notice it looks a little bit different than Adobe? It did get into the weekly 50, but it didn't go. It didn't bounce. It actually just kind of kept pushing through until it finally sank. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. What's the other thing that you see different? As price right here failed the weekly 50 and then started to operate underneath here, look at the 8 and 21. Don't you see that the orange and blue line, the blue line is below the orange line? That's the fast moving average below the slow moving average. There's a clue. And that was on a weekly time frame. This thing was setting you up for a couple weeks, telling you that this wasn't going to go up. So this looks really different than Adobe. The other thing to look at on the daily chart, we come in through here, kind of zoom in for it. And what you can see is, maybe a little bit of a fake out. This time frame, price came into the daily 200, starting over the daily 50. The one thing I'll point out, the Moxie indicator, let me move this so you can see it a little bit better. You see that zero line? Here's the zero line. Notice how it got close, but the Moxie indicator never got over zero. It never went positive. Therefore, this is what I call an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the indicator is below zero. The indicator, the Moxie indicator, was telling us and communicating to us saying, I'm still negative. I'm still below zero. I'm still in negative energy momentum space. Like, what are you doing up here? You shouldn't be up there. And sure enough, the Moxie indicator won, and price rolled over, and that was one of the clues telling you, like, this thing's not going to work out. And then you can see there was another little bounce going into earnings, and what happened? It bounced right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator was below zero still. So, and then the other thing you can look at during this transition period was notice that the hourly 50 crossed below the hourly 200. Your fast moving average is below the slow moving average. And much in the same way right here on the weekly chart, right? So if you look at this kind of stuff, there are clues. The Moxie indicator really helps. But even if you just use moving averages, you can tell, because mathematically it's telling you that the trend is down because the fast moving average is below the slow moving average. So those are all good things to be looking at and paying attention to. Now, I see a few people in here, and then I know it's going to be recorded, so you're probably watching this a little bit later. But if you guys have any questions, let me know as I go along. And I got a list of things that I'll be showing you guys, so you can sit back and watch and learn a little bit here. Now, Carvana. If you guys want to talk about some short plays, because as I said, that's the environment we're in. So what are you looking for when you go short? Well, in a lot of ways, you're just looking for the opposite of what you look for when you go long. It's a little bit trickier. The short side definitely is trickier. And one thing I will caution against, you don't want to try and short an uptrend, or you don't want to try and short a pullback in an uptrend. So a lot of times you might be looking at this and saying, it looks like price needs to pull back. I used to try and do this when I first started trying to trade. I was like, hey, there's movement. Why don't I trade it both directions and I can make money both ways? Well, I learned my lesson the hard way, so I'm trying to help you shortcut that. You might look at this and say right there, oh, price is pretty far. It's going to pull back, and I know it's going to pull back, and it does. But you know what? And so you try and short it. But you know what? It only pulls back that much, and then it goes right back up, because why? It was a pullback and an uptrend. You weren't actually going with the trend. You were just trying to catch this little move, and ultimately it really wanted to go higher. So don't try and short something that is going up, even though it might be extended, even though it looks overbought, even though there might actually be a pullback, but that pullback might be to support, and then it's going to go right back up and break your neck. You need to wait until the trend changes. And so what that is again, use those moving averages, use the Moxie indicator, and what you can see here with Carvana, it just lines up so beautifully. Look at this. Here's the Moxie price trigger telling you that that momentum and energy has now gone negative on the weekly time frame, which is a big deal. It's a weekly time frame. And then you can see here on the daily, the Moxie indicator has been below zero for an eternity. I mean, look how many days that thing was below zero, and telling you that even though price was kind of going sideways here, and you're looking at this, maybe you're thinking, oh, this is still going to go long. You're looking, thinking, oh, maybe it's catching support at the 200. It's catching support at the weekly 50. Look at the Moxie indicator. The Moxie indicator is so far below zero that there is just no hope that it's ever going to go positive. It's just not going to go positive. It's going to take a lot of work to go positive. So what it's telling you is, hey, heads up, energy and momentum is negative. You better be aware of that, whether you're long or short, however your trade is going to be going. The other thing to look at, where does price go? Again, just upside down. This is a flag, into the underside of a downtrending daily 50. That is, you flip that around, that's a perfect long. But in the world of shorts, that is a perfect short entry. That is absolutely perfect. It did a bear flag right into the underside of a downtrending moving average with the momentum negative, below zero. And then you can see that any little bounces continue to bounce right into resistance. So this would actually happen pretty quickly. Quickly might be relative because maybe from here to here, it took 73 days. So do keep in mind that even though the market is falling apart and these things are going down and they look like they just fallen off a cliff, which they are, it can still take a fair amount of time. Maybe 73 days is a fairly short time frame for what you're looking at. But do keep in mind that it's going to take some time for these things to move, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. And then let me just kind of show you here on the hourly, because where this thing first started, you can see here's the Moxie price trigger. The Moxie price trigger is telling you that is when the indicator has now gone negative. It's a heads up. That's why I have the arrows on the price screen like that so you can see it. That's telling you momentum's changed. And now price is underneath the daily 50 and the 8 is below the 21. How about the hourly chart? Well, look what just happened. The hourly 200 went from an uptrend to a downtrend, and price bounced right into it. Just came up, hit its head, rolled right over. It's like that old man when he was sleeping bumped his head. And then you can see here, right into the underside of the hourly 50, again, just straight down, straight down. And you'll kind of see that. Now, it's not always the super cleanest, just it depends on what time frame you're looking at. Yeah, look at this. The Moxie indicator was below zero the entire time. This is an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. ACC, well, right now this thing is about kind of breaking it down as far as little basic charts and setups. So I gave a little spiel about the market in the beginning. So if you want to watch that when this is done, you can do that. And yeah, this is just kind of diving deep into a few little setups that I look at. All right, so another one that we can look at is, I thought Trip actually had a lot of good things to show. Let me see if I have enough. Yep, there we go. Got far enough back. And if we look here on the weekly and the daily, right and through here, this one was gorgeous. Now, mind you, this started March of 2019. So COVID, right? This and Tripadvisor. Nobody's traveling during COVID. So this was a pretty easy short if you thought about it and just started tackling something like this that was just gonna, be going down because it was COVID. But how did it do it? Even though it bounced around, like what did the trend look like? First off, here's the Moxie price trigger. You can see that is when the Moxie indicator went negative. So negative energy. And then let me kind of correlate this so that we can see where we are. You can see the daily Moxie indicator went first, and then you can see the weekly went next. So, weekly is a bigger, slower time frame. And then you can see, look here, you see how the daily 50 SMA was in an uptrend. But then do you see how the daily 50 SMA turned into a downtrend? Clear things to note. Really good stuff that you need to just pay attention to of what, simple stuff, but what is the direction of the moving average? And when you can better identify that and see it, this is part of why I have my price bars grayed out, because I really, really, really care about the moving averages. I want to see the moving averages. And then that's why the price bars are grayed out, because I don't care if it was a red day or a green day. I don't care. I just want to know where price is in relation to the moving averages. And then the Moxie indicator helps me stay in the trend. It helps me understand that, even though it bounced, and even though price bounced, what's the indicator? Still below zero, still below zero, still below zero. It's telling me I don't care that price is bouncing, momentum and energy is still negative. And so what is this? When price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below zero, that's an inverse trampoline move. That's a sucker move. Like, you don't want to go long on something like that. Not to mention, look at the trend of the daily 50. It is clearly in like a 45-degree straight line going down. It's not ready to go up. And so what you can do, the opportunities to short are at the 50. Those are pretty good opportunities right in through there. Now, if you look on the weekly, what's it doing? Weekly 21, weekly 21, weekly 21. You'll start seeing that there are some rules out there. I know the market seems pretty crazy and some stocks don't follow any rules, but There are consistent things. There are patterns out there that people pay attention to, computers pay attention to. And it's kind of neat when it starts to line up because you start noticing this stuff. Parvin, you can get the Moxie indicator if you go to profitpilot.com or if you go to Simpler Trading. There should be a link in the top of the chat box here. Yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at net. And then M McNeil, do I have closed hours open on the 1 hour chart? I just have regular trading hours. I don't use the overnight. So for net, kind of dive back here. I'll zoom out. There we go. Kind of zoom out a little bit more, and we'll see where this thing started. So there was a definitive place where net really started running into trouble. I know it had a huge move up, but that should also give you pause, because when something is too good, it's like too good to be true, right? Look at this weekly chart. Super overbought. How about this daily chart? Look at that distance between price and the daily 50. It was unsupported. There was a huge gap, like air gap, right underneath price. So when price stopped going up, there was a long way for it to fall before it ever started hitting some support. Now, how would you have seen that coming? This is where I use the Moxie indicator. As I said, my sole indicator. It's my best one. If I were stranded on a desert island with the internet and the laptop, I just need Moxie. So if you look at this, notice that price kept moving up. Notice that the Moxie indicator kept going down. What it's telling you is that even though price keeps going up, the energy and momentum inside is dwindling. It keeps using up all of its gas trying to climb this mountain, and it's just about to run out of gas. And you know where it did it? Right there. That is when the Moxie indicator now went negative, and now energy and momentum was negative. And you're like, well, but price kept pushing. Yeah, sure, price can do that. You know, things are weird with the market. Price can do that. But you know what the Moxie indicator is telling you? It's telling you, and it's been telling you for days, something bad's going to happen. This isn't a real move. The Moxie indicator is actually trying to communicate to you, hey, you know, energy and momentum's negative. Can't you see that? And price, yeah, I know price is going up there, but that's a trap. Like you better not be doing that. Like, what are you doing up there? It's only a matter of time until the Moxie indicator, you know, catches up, until momentum catches up. And so this is an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And so if you have the Moxie indicator, if you're trading a stock like this, it would help keep you out of a trade like this, or it starts ringing the bells and says, oh, maybe I should take my money. You know, maybe I should get out of this because something's going to happen. Or maybe I need to tighten up my stops. That way, when this happens, your stop gets hit and you don't care because you're out. So that's the area of trying to figure out, okay, when do I need to get out of something and when is it going to start falling apart? Now, if you want to try trading it short, where is the perfect short on this thing? Right there. Look at that. What did it do? It bounced right up into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. I mean, isn't that what we look for when we want to go long? Is we look for price to, you know, find support at moving averages, like an uptrending moving average, and then ride that moving average to the upside? Well, to the downside, it's just the opposite. Look at it. It bounced right up into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and look how far the Moxie indicator was below 0. That is telling you that this sucker is super negative. And what did it do? Another bounce? Let me draw that better right there. What did it do? Bounced right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 again. And how far below 0 is the Moxie indicator? Very far. And you know what that tells me? Let me move this over a little bit and we'll keep going on this one. Because maybe you're looking at this and you're like, hey, this is starting to go sideways. And maybe it's finding some support because it looks like there's an area of support right through here. You're like, oh, is this going to be bouncing? Do I need to get out of this? You know what? Look how far the Moxie indicator is below 0. It's got a lot of work to do to go positive. So what it's telling me is this probably isn't going to do anything. It's just going to find some temporary support. It's going to roll over. And you know what? That's an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And then you know what? What did it do after that? It continued the downtrend because once again, price got rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. And then the same thing here, price got rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. Everything was down. Down. And then through here, you could see that's where the 8 crossed below the 21. And now you just have a huge downtrend. Like, there is no saving this thing. Let's see. Yeah, Moxie can be used to catch reversals. Totally. I'm trying to think of any right now. You were talking about Trip, but yeah, I think this thing's going to keep moving down. That's the environment of the market that we're in. And I'm looking for this to just kind of keep rolling over. So kind of like where net, we showed you that net, even though the Moxie indicator did cross over zero for just a little bit here, the ultimate trend, if you look at the moving average, the daily 50 SMA is very much in a downtrend. And I'm looking at this, and you can see the Moxie indicator is actually slowing down to the upside. And I assume it's going to go back red again. So no, I don't see a bullish signal here, even though it's just touching zero. And if you look at the hourly chart, look at this level, look at the hourly Moxie indicator. Does that look like strength? Not at all. This thing looks like hot garbage, like just straight down. So we're just kind of touching the top right there. That's why we're getting that green arrow on the daily. But everything else says this thing's still going down. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Pretty much that brings me to the end of what I had brought to talk to you guys about. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave some more comments. We'll be watching as this thing is recorded. And if you guys have any other questions about this, but beyond that, if you guys have questions and you like, I like the way I present stuff, you like the way I look at the markets with the Moxie indicator, yeah, come over here to profitpilot.com. Come over to Simpler Trading, give us a look, and come join, chat for a little bit. And yeah, I gave you guys lots of information inside of the Moxie trading room. We've been having a really, really great day today, and we had a great week, even though the market's been just melting down. The fact that there is movement is fantastic. This is the kind of stuff that I love as a swing trader, whether it's up or down. I'm just happy that things are really starting to move, and we're doing well with it. So it's been a great few days. I'm looking forward to more of them, and I think we're going to be in some volatility for the next few months, which is great, just absolutely great. It's much better than hanging at the top where the market was just like bouncing around and not going anyplace. That stuff's annoying. Now we've got some movement. This will be fun. So hope to see you guys in the chat room,